All right, and welcome everyone to the Ginette Biro podcast. I'm Ginette Biro, and thank you always for joining me on the show. I am so excited for today's episode, the Q&A podcast, where you guys send me a whole bunch of questions. I answer them to my best of my knowledge, and I ask the guides and bring them in to see what's in store. And so I'm always excited by the stuff that comes out, the things we learn, and truly some of the best learning happens when we all join together, ask questions, and connect in this collaboration of ideas, thoughts, theories, all of that kind of stuff. So thank you guys so much again for sending in the questions. So I have the three guides of the light with me. I have the Ascended Master Sanat Kumara with me. I also have, I have some from the Pleiadian Council. These are higher light beings, if you're not familiar with them. And they're all here to help us do this deep dive in. So we're going to see what's in store. I can't wait to jump into this and roll with it. Now, I do want to say that some of the questions you guys sent in were so good and they required so much explanation that I'm actually going to do an entire podcast on it, because I think to rush through it or try and wrap it in a nice little bow is just not doing it justice. So I will be the next couple podcasts as well, be focusing on some of the questions that you guys asked as well. So if yours wasn't answered in this one, it will be coming as a full episode. And I'm excited to dive into that. So let's focus here on the questions. Okay, yeah, here we go. There, my guides are like, Ginette, just get going. So I'm going to get going. Okay, so the first question is, are some spirits assigned to one specific person and in that case not interact with other people? Right? Like, do they get assigned to somebody and that's it? That's their job. That's all they do. And it's funny, as I see the different guides that came in to help answer these, it's almost like seeing them like a panel. They're like sitting there like a panel when you connect with a panel of people and they're sharing their opinions. So they're all shaking their head. They're all like, nope, it's not that simple. Now, here's the thing. When we have a spirit guide or any guide, let's actually start in the most simplest form. Your spirit guide, your lifetime guide, their main job, their main agreement and contract is to be available to you throughout your lifetime from the moment you come in until you cross over, to help you in the ways that are needed. So they're there to kind of look out for you. They're almost kind of, you could say, like a parental role on the other side, to look out for you, to bring you guidance, to bring you different beings or other spirit guides at the appropriate time, to try and give you insights to prevent certain events from happening, or maybe, cringe as you hit a road bump in life and crash and tumble. And then they're there to try and help you pick up the pieces. All of this, they try and help make these alignments and synchronicities happen. So their main responsibility is to help you in your life. So that's a really simple way to say it. Now, that being said, it doesn't mean they still don't have their own journey and their own existence on the other side doing different things. And so that's why guides always like to say, like, they are available to you at any time, all the time, just the same way that we are with a cell phone, for example, right? Anybody can reach us if they have our number at any time, really. But there are times where we are busy doing something else, but if we need to be pulled by that person, they can call us and we can be there. Same thing goes for spirit. I have seen some guides sometimes busy working on something and I'll say, hey, where were you? I was calling, I needed you to do this. And they're like, yeah, I was just finishing up one other thing. Now, we don't always have access to what it is they're working on, but they do have their own life and their own existence as well, because just as you are growing as a person here in this lifetime, having experiences, so too is your spirit guide. They have taken on the role of spirit guide and they're learning and growing in that role as well. And I've talked about it in the past where sometimes spirit guides are doing their very best to guide you in the best way. But if they're really new to the experience, then they're learning as well. They're learning how to make it work and have it happen in the most smooth, seamless ways. But sometimes they're also learning in their guidance. They are not perfect. They tend to know a lot more than we do, but they're not perfect either. So it is this continual growth of expansion, awareness, soul growth. Even on the other side, it doesn't stop when we are not embodied here. And for many of you listening too, they're reminding me to say that for many of you, you have also had experiences as a lifetime guide for other beings in their lifetimes at different times. Some of those might be even family members in your lifetime. I even know the idea of some soul contracts is for the two souls. If you have two souls, one soul embodies while the other one is the guide. And then in the next lifetime, they switch. The other soul embodies and the other one is the guide. And they kind of go back and forth. So there's many ways that it can happen. But the short answer is yes, spirits are often assigned to one specific person if they're a lifetime guide, but they do also have interactions and, in essence, a life on the other side too. It doesn't necessarily always look like what a lifetime looks like to us here, but it's different. The second part of that, though, is there are also other times where a guide may come in and they are not your lifetime guide. So meaning they don't have a contract with you for your entire existence, but they are someone that can come in as a teacher for a certain amount of time. Say you are going through med school and there is a guide who is a very successful surgeon in their lifetime, and they choose to want to come through and continue educating in the ways that they can from the other side. So they may step forward while you're in med school, or maybe while you're working on some research paper, to help bring insights, moments of ingenuity and creativity to help you move forward in what you're doing. So they will come in for a time or a phase while you're learning, and then kind of carry on forward and go help somebody else. So it can really kind of go back and forth. Another example is my guide, Andre. Andre is part of my guidance for my lifetime, but I know he has also interacted with other people as well. So it really is very multifaceted, and it's not linear in the way that we like to make things linear. And I'm not saying this question was posed in a simple linear way, but we like to make things linear so it makes sense and it has a progression, and that's what it is. But everything on the other side, they said, is very multifaceted. So there are many ways it can be done. Yeah, anything else that they want to say? They're nodding and feeling complete. They're saying that they're having a little bit of a giggle in a sense, because they're like, that's a pretty good way, meaning there's a lot more that we fail to understand while we're still in this human form, but they will take it. So we'll take it. So hopefully that helps. Oh, I do want to say one more thing coming from my brain here, if I'm a part of this panel, is there are times if we use someone who is a really significant soul, say Buddha or Jesus or Mary Magdalene, anyone like that, they are available for anybody. But that doesn't mean they just kind of hover over. Like somebody could have in spirit a conversation with Mary Magdalene. Absolutely. So at the same time as somebody else could be having a conversation with Mary Magdalene, they are available and not limited to time and space the way we are, right? When we have a conversation with somebody, if we really want to be a part of it, we have to kind of focus on that one conversation and that one interaction. But in spirit, especially those at an ascended level, they can also fractal their being to be fully available from many, many at the same time. So again, it doesn't fit in the linear sense of human understandings, but that is a completely normal thing on the other side because there's no limitation. So I think that kind of fills up that question there. Okay, next question is, do spirits eat? Is taste only a 3D sense? And if so, do they miss the taste of food? Now, I loved this question when it came in, because if this would have been years ago, I would have answered, and I will say this, I would have said, no, they don't taste food. They don't eat. They don't have bodies. They don't need to eat. And I would have stood firm by this. And this is what I love about evolution and progression, even of our own learning, is we may think we know a lot and then we learn more. And the reason why I say this is because it was just even last year or the year before, in a couple readings, I had spirits come through. Let me backtrack. I have had spirits come through before saying they miss the taste of food. They miss the taste of food or wine or this or that. That is a very 3D sense. They miss that about Earth. So I've seen spirits say that. So that's why I was like, oh yeah, for sure. No, they don't. But I've also had recently spirits coming through And there was this one specific that I still remember the imagery of, and they were talking about peppers and how they said peppers on the other side are nothing like what you have on earth. And I remember when they said that, I'm like, you're eating food? I didn't think spirits eat food. And they kind of laughed and said, it is what we make it to be. And so the taste of food and the desire for food can completely be available to that spirit if that is a part of what they're manifesting in their experience there. Whereas if there is a lack or missing of it, then that is what they're experiencing. And again, there's a lot of different ways we can look at that and many variabilities in it. So I will say that, yes, it seems that spirits can eat. Taste doesn't seem to be limited to 3D. And some do miss the taste of food while others do experience it. Now, I do want to say one other thing. My guides are reminding me to mention this one is when I had my near-death experience, when I wound up on the other side, I was walking on grass and I soon walked into this experience of a reunion with all the different souls I'd known. But the reunion was based in a picnic setting. There was picnic tables, there was food everywhere, and I could see the food. I don't remember the details of the food, and I don't remember the experience of eating, but there being food there was very normal. So I find that interesting that they're bringing that up too. So there's got to be something to it, whether that's a part of just manifesting the experience wanted or the availability of anything. It is possible to experience it somehow on the other side in a different dimensional consciousness. So I'll leave that with you. Still a bit of a mystery. I will look into it more when I cross over some other time, although I may only be able to haunt you to give you the answer, but that could be funny in itself. Okay, the next one. Is there still soul growth after 3D and into higher dimensions? So this is an interesting question because are we talking about soul growth after 3D in terms of third dimensional consciousness into fifth dimensional consciousness? Because if that's the question, then absolutely yes, because that is what we're experiencing on planet Earth right now while we are still embodied. We are moving from a human embodiment of third dimensional reality and raising our consciousness into a fifth dimensional reality while still embodied. So in that's a great explanation of how that can be completely possible here. Now, if the question is after we die and cross over and pass on from a 3D embodiment, does the soul grow after? The answer is yes, it absolutely does. We are continually growing and learning. I've seen many times where after a soul has crossed over, I try to reach them for their family members, and that soul is sometimes busy. Sometimes they are in like a school setting where they're learning more things. They're literally in a school setting learning things to either understand stuff from their past life or learning more about higher consciousness of which I didn't have access to. My only ability was to witness them in the school setting, but they were learning more. So that's one example. There is also another example of there is a space on the other side when I connect with spirit that is over the hill. And anything that is in front of that hill, it looks like this big, tall, grassy hill. Anything beyond that hill, I can't see. Whatever spirit wants to share with me, they have to bring in front of that hill when this is mediumship specific, not vision states of journeys. This is mediumship specific. So when spirits are beyond that hill, they are learning or taking part in things that are of higher consciousness. They are ascending in their own soul growth for a reason. So they're continuing their learning, but their learning is beyond what we can either understand or we're allowed to access based on where we are in this reality or what's going on in that particular reading. So yes, soul growth does continue on always and always and always. And even when I'm talking to some from the higher council, say the Pleiadian Council, regardless of where they're at, each dimensional level, the soul desires to move up through each dimensional level. So even if you're talking to a being of, say, seventh dimensional consciousness that comes from a different realm, let's say it is the Pleiades star system, and they are a seventh dimensional being, they are still learning and growing to ascend into 8th dimensional, 9th dimensional, and so on. There's constant soul growth for the soul to find its way back to source in its entirety. Now, what does that mean exactly? I don't know. I actually don't know what it means. I could hypothesize what that means. You return to source, and then what? Right? We're trying to understand the and then what in a human term from a 3rd or 5th dimensional consciousness, but it doesn't work that way. It's vastly different. So that's kind of running a tangent, but basically the soul absolutely continues growing forevermore. Because one way Sanat Kumara is saying the soul is the desire of source or God or creator, universe, Allah, whatever your term is. The piece that splits off from that origin and becomes a soul for experiences is having those experiences to mirror back to its origin, right? Because we are all connected to that origin of source, right? And this is where we get so philosophical, and this is where it could debate and debate and debate, and really it has to come back to what resonates for you. So again, there was another tangent, but the simple thing is, yes, we continually are learning. We are always learning and growing in ways we can't even imagine. It's just continual exponential growth, which is an exciting thing. Okay, the next question is, are there expectations to help the collective in 5th dimensions and beyond? Sorry, I'm just listening to the guides right now. Okay, so what they're wanting to say is, this is a beautiful question, first of all. Now they're highlighting the word expectation because they're saying expectation is a third dimensional reality construct, term, way of being, thought process that is actually limiting. There is no expectation in the higher realms to have to do, but the higher that we connect in those higher realms, the more we embrace the idea of oneness, of instead of simply the I am presence, which is very important, we also fully embrace the we are presence, meaning the two are exactly equal. And this we are, or this true understanding of the oneness, makes for a desire of the soul to want to help the collective. So it's kind of like you connect into this web of desiring to help everything because you realize everything feeds back to you. And it's not about being selfish in the fact of, well, I'll help because it all leads back to me. It's more the higher view of course, I will help because I am a part of all of this. It matters to all of us. So there's a greater level of understanding, which makes for the desire to help lift all things, run through the current of everyone. And I'll say everyone with a bit of a caveat because we could deviate into, well, there's different beings that are in different dimensions of consciousness that wish to do this and this and this. And that's very fair. But for the focus of this question, they're saying take off the idea of expectation and recognize it's about union with all. It's a beautiful answer. I love that. Okay, now this one is specific for the 3 guides of the light. So I hope they're ready. There's a question on asking about the 3 guides of light's opinion on eating meat. Is meat beneficial? Does it decrease our vibration? What is their take on that? Are there better sources for it? Okay, just give me a minute, you guys. I'm going to tune in and see what they say. Okay, so this is interesting. So they're saying there is a beautiful exchange of energy that happens when one animal gives of themselves to another animal for nourishment to carry on the cycle of life. And this cycle of life is something that we see over and over and over on this planet. It's all about these cycles, which really mimic greater cycles. So we could say the singular life of an animal is one microcycle that really mimics the greater macro cycles even within the universe. The key to that is when there is an understanding energetically between the animal and the way in which it is honored for its meat and then given back. So this is really interesting. And I'm a little choppy because I'm trying to watch what they're showing me at the same time. They're saying being embodied as human beings right now, for some genetic structures, some people's individual bodies, meat proteins offer the best nourishment that aligns with that physical vessel. Okay, now for others, non-meat vibrates better for that person. Now there's qualities for either. If you are somebody that does eat meat, then the quality of the meat you eat is very important. If you are eating the meat of an animal that is tortured, that is taken from in a very unappreciated way, there's frequencies that shift the energetic body of that meat, which can have an effect on you. And some people will feel this and some won't. Now, that doesn't mean that somebody that goes and eats a burger at A&W isn't spiritual or spiritually aware or a compassionate human being. There is no judgment. And that's what they're really getting at. It's not about the judgment. It's about resonating with where you're at and what feels right to you. Just as is someone who may think they are vegan, if they're choosing all the wrong ways to be vegan, and I mean wrong ways as in really poor diet, right? Like I'm not going to eat meat, so I'm going to eat this and this and this and this. And those are all really low vibrational foods, non-nutritious, all this kind of stuff. They're not benefiting their body either. So it's not about one being right and one being wrong, but it's about the process in which you gather your food, as well as the way in which you feel when you eat that food. Because for those, when meat no longer becomes a sustaining, frequency matching energy, it doesn't benefit the body anymore, and the body will feel it and let you know. However, this is where the three guides of the light are coming back. There are some genetic structures, so whether that be your family line, where it would take a couple generations to move that family line into one that doesn't need meat as much. Because I mean, I think everybody truly, my opinion on that is everybody should eat the way in which resonates for them. I would never tell someone to be vegan. I would never tell someone to not be vegan. I would say find your flow. Me personally, I prefer not to eat meat, but I will still eat eggs. There's some days I don't want to eat eggs, but that's simply what works for me. That's the Ginette diet based on what resonates for me. So again, three guides of the light are saying, find the frequency that works with you. If it is to have meat, find the purest, most respected, most honored cyclical energetic nature of that meat source. Over time, as your frequencies raise, you will notice your desire for meat may lessen, and that's to do with your body being at a different state, but not to force it. And it is anything, as you raise your consciousness, your frequency shifts and the desire for what sustains you shifts as well. But they're saying it's not one linear rule. Again, it's not one linear rule. So I hope that helps explain it. I'm actually going to have to listen back on that and see if that made sense or not, because part of it was half vision state for me trying to give it to you. So I hope that came out clearly. I'm just going to see if they have anything more. Hold on. Yeah, they're saying simplest way is honor the self. Move through the steps and the processes of the self and recognizing you yourself, what resonates and what doesn't. Allow it to shift when it does. and you will see where that leads you to. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at that. I hope that helps. The next one is, when it is Tuesday, sometimes I feel like it's Friday. What is happening with timeline jumping? Well, there has been a lot of timeline jumping, and basically what it is a simple explanation is, as we are expanding our consciousness in this singular timeline. So if you consider like several lines in a row, okay, and each line or each space in between is a lifetime or parallel life, for the most simple explanation. As you expand your consciousness in one of those lives, it expands out like a V. And as that happens, you start to kind of edge your ability to perceive into the next rows beside you. So you will start to pick up on different aspects of other parallel lives happening for you. Now, at the same time, that is also happening as a collective on the planet. So the planet as a whole is also doing this expansion here, which makes it feel like the different timelines are converging, but it's really, we're just reaching greater ability to perceive them. And the one part that confuses me, and maybe the guides can answer that in a minute, is why sometimes time seems to go really slow and why sometimes time seems to go really fast, which is sometimes, again, we feel like we're already at the end of the week, but that hasn't even happened, right? This is a really interesting question. So I'm just going to see if they have anything to share on that. Oh, interesting. Okay, well, that makes so much sense. Okay, so what they're saying is, also, as we're moving through time, whether it be collective or individual, but if you take the individual specifically, when you are perceiving something from a higher dimensional of consciousness or higher dimension of consciousness, time moves faster. When you see something from a third dimension, it moves slower. So if you find in your daily life, you're buzzing around in a 5D energy of consciousness, you actually feel time moving faster than it is for the 3D aspect of self. So really, you're kind of walking in two timelines of perception at the same time. And it's when they converge or when something should be happening differently. That's why some days you're like, okay, it's Friday today, and you realize it's only Tuesday. The speed at which you've been moving would normally have led you to Friday, but you're still only on Tuesday. That's really interesting. Okay, so I hope that helps answer that part. All right, and the last one for today is, what do we need to do as a society to come together and shift what is going on? Do we just ride the wave and have fun? Now, this is a beautiful question, and this really is one I debated on doing a whole podcast on as well. But I think there's so many ways we can look at this. But one of the things is choosing the perspective we are looking at first and foremost. And Spirit showed me this the other day, actually, as an example. So I don't know if you guys have heard of the doomsday clock. The doomsday clock is this clock that is, it's not actually a ticking time clock, but it's the image of a clock, or the symbolism of a clock. And the hands of time on it dictate how close how close humanity is to doomsday, to destroying itself, whether it be nuclear, climate change, economics, you name it, how close we are to destruction. And so they showed me this clock, and at various times in history, we have been 3 minutes away, 7 minutes away, 2 minutes away. Now, since 2020, scientists, whoever is a part of this panel to determine where we are as humanity, determined that we were 90 seconds or 100 seconds away from doomsday, meaning we are really pushing the limits. It's not a literal 100 seconds, but it's the understanding of how close we're pushing it. So when I first saw that, I was like, oh man, that's really not good. And I could see that in this and this and this. But the other thing was, Spirit was like, okay, but at the same time, we are 100 minutes to, or 100 seconds to greatness. Which one are you looking at? And so that's what they're saying by the foundation from which you see things. You're seeing it as a glass half full or glass half empty. Same glass, same liquid filled halfway, but which way do you see it? Do you see it as, okay, man, all I have left is this. This sucks. I used to have a full glass. Now I only have this, yada, 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 yada. Or Do you look at it and think, man, I am so lucky I still have half left. This has been a great glass and I still have half left. I still have all that much that I can enjoy. Maybe I will even be able to refill it. Same glass, same amount. What is your root way of looking at things? That is going to be a big, big key to how we come together. Because what's happening right now is we have a lot of things coming up into our awareness. We have a lot of things coming to the forefront that can trigger fear, anger, anxiety, you name it. If we only focus on that, we can also focus on the fact that these things are surfacing and now we're made aware of them. And we can do the things needed, whether individually or in your community or globally, to change them to make it better. And we're being made aware. And yes, it's not great to be made aware sometimes to see how deep it actually runs. But now that we know, we can do. And so it's the focus on the doing or on simply what we've been made aware of. That is a key piece of changing it, because we have equal amount of people as a collective that have awoken, have dove into self, have started talking even more about mental health and inequality, racial inequality, gender inequality, financial inequality, all those things, and talking about that. And at the same time, we also have people that are focusing on the negative of that, why things are so bad and how they're so bad and the world is ending. If that's going to be the focus, well, then that's going to pull everything down. And it doesn't mean we do false positivity, but it means we get busy working in the concept of we are. We together. 2022 is about coming together and working together to really create this beautiful harmony of humanity, not human, humanity. Take the human that you are, that you have gotten to know over the last 2 years, then know thyself, and bring that out into humanity. And while you're doing that, do it in a positive way. Do it in a way that's helpful, not critical. If you're going to be critical of something, you could be critical of it and then offer potential solutions and how it can be done and the positive energy behind it of why this is good, and get people on board instead of rallying just by anger and hate. And that doesn't mean we can't be angry. We can have anger, but it's coming together and choosing the base root of how you are wanting to look at where the world is going. And then the second part of that question of, do we just ride the wave and have fun? You know what? That is so equally important to this experience to keep us balanced. We have to have fun in this. We have to find ways to have fun in all of this. Otherwise, we go downhill, and that's not beneficial to us. So fun, absolutely essential. And the guides are reminding me, which I feel like I say all the time, but they merit it being said again. Laughter and joy is one of the best ways to raise your frequency. It truly is. It is such a natural frequency raiser. I mean, sure, it releases different endorphins that help our bodies and all of that, but it also changes your energy signature. So the more you can balance out stuff that you're doing in life, things that you're helping to change and shift either within you or your community or your family, and balance it with play, joy. It brings up more kindness. It brings up more compassion, and it brings up more bonding. If we can bond through humor and joy, that is just a wonderful safe space to create in our world. So there you have it, you guys. Those are some of the main questions. Like I said, some of the other ones will be individual podcasts. And I thank you all again so much for this. I really do. I love these questions. There will definitely be more. And if you guys are wanting to deepen your own practice as well, your own deep dive, do check us out at avalonspirit.com. There are many personal journey guides that have beautiful offerings to help you find your way. As well, if you're wanting to dive in deeper to some pretty cool aspects of consciousness and embodiment, channelings from the Pleiadians, you name it, join my Cosmic Consciousness Circle. We are starting our first one for 2022 this Wednesday night. Happens once a month, where I tune into spirit and bring through some really cool stuff. I really follow their lead. So if you're wanting to dive in, join us there. It's a great one. You can find it again on avalonspirit.com. As well, if you haven't already, join us on the Facebook group page, Avalon Spirit. And lastly, if you are looking for more content like this, the Avalon Spirit YouTube page is where we post all our Spirit Coffee Talks, where myself, Elise Catherine, and Lisa Richmond, we get together once a week and we talk about the energies, current events from a spiritual perspective, you name it, it's there once a week, usually every Friday. So check that out as well. All right, you guys, have a beautiful rest of your week. And next week is coming the February energy update. I'm excited to share that. I've got tons of downloads coming in already. So check that out and I'll see you then.